If you think In-N-Out's fresh, never frozen slogan makes it automatically better, you might want to hear this. Because that California glow of simplicity and purity has been engineered. We'll pull apart how marketing turned a basic burger into a cultural badge, and why the fries don't live up to the myth. The question isn't West Coast versus East Coast anymore. It's how much of your loyalty was bought with branding, not flavor. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. Costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Let's start with the phrase that built an empire: fresh, never frozen. Sounds simple, honest, almost wholesome. You see it on cups, bags, even the drive-through window. It tells you this burger isn't just fast food. It's a moral choice in a greasy world. But what does that promise actually buy you beyond the confidence of repeating it to your friends? The truth is, fresh isn't a flavor. It's a feeling. And feelings are easier and cheaper to sell than quality. You're told the beef never spends a moment in a freezer, as if that alone separates it from the pack. In reality, fresh in fast food means the meat rides in refrigerated trucks before dawn, hitting local stores still chilled but far from freshly butchered. It's a smart supply chain, not a farm-to-grill miracle. The trucks run tight schedules, storage coolers hum along, and by the time it hits the griddle, that fresh patty has seen more highway miles than most commuters. It's still real beef, just not the romance the slogan paints. That slogan works because it speaks to modern guilt. You'd like to eat better, you want real food, and you still need it in 5 minutes or less. Fresh, never frozen hits that sweet spot between virtue and convenience. It's like being told your soda is organic. It makes you feel cleaner without requiring a salad. And once that feeling sets in, taste takes a backseat. People walk away praising the burger as if the word fresh dripped flavor into the bun itself. Then there's scarcity. The chain's limited range has turned it from a fast food joint into a regional badge of honor. If you're from California, ordering one isn't lunch, it's loyalty. When something isn't everywhere, it feels special. That's simple psychology. Scarcity suggests worth, even when the product itself isn't unique. It's the same reason a souvenir burger on vacation tastes better. You're really biting into nostalgia, not seasoning. In-N-Out's genius wasn't just its menu. It was creating a sense of membership. You don't just eat it, you wear it like an identity. Talk to anyone who's worked behind those spotless counters and the system sounds more like a military operation than a backyard cookout. Deliveries drop daily, produce logged, patties are prepped in rhythm, and the timers never stop ticking. Fresh here means controlled, tight turnaround, precise refrigeration, short shelf life. It's efficient, not rustic. Every head of lettuce and tray of patties fits inside a temperature range rather than a sentiment. Once you see that, fresh feels less like a farm word and more like a policy code. The funny thing is, science backs up how easily we fall for it. In blind taste tests, people routinely rate food labeled fresh higher, even when they're eating the exact same thing described differently. It's called sensory perception bias. When your mind expects realness, your tongue cooperates. A burger described as fresh off the grill gets instant points before the first bite. You're tasting suggestion more than salt. It also explains why nostalgia hits so hard. A paper wrapper with a simple logo, palm trees on the cup, the same menu your parents knew. It all layers comfort into the brand. That consistency tricks you into associating the flavor with honesty. A burger becomes a memory trigger. Summer nights, road trips, hometown visits. The food might stay average, but the experience matures into meaning. You think you're tasting beef, you're really tasting belonging. When you break it down, fresh ended up doing double duty. It gave the company moral weight, clean, simple, authentic, and it gave customers the illusion of insider purity. That combination sold devotion more effectively than any seasoning blend. And here's the kicker. It lets an ordinary burger command premium loyalty. You pay not for freshness itself, but for what freshness stands for, the story it tells about you. So while the patties are handled with care and the lettuce doesn't come from a freezer bag, that doesn't automatically make the burger better. It just means skilled marketing turned logistics into a lifestyle. Fresh doesn't equal best. It equals marketed as best. And that small twist is where the brand wins bigger than the taste buds do. Now that we've cracked the freshness halo, let's look at the weak link that betrays it, those fries. Ever wonder why the fries that look the most honest often taste the worst? The ones cut right in front of you, cooked to order, fresh from a real potato, then land on your tray pale, limp, and quiet? That disconnect between looks and taste is where fast food's most charming trick hides. Hand-cut makes you think of care, of some backroom cook with a knife and patience. In reality, it's more about rhythm than craft, and those fresh-cut claims collapse the second you take a bite. The promise sounds noble enough. No frozen bags, no processed shapes, just pure potatoes sliced on-site and fried in clean oil. It feels like you're getting something rustic, stripped of industrial shortcuts. But the results often taste closer to hospital cafeteria fare than anything you'd crave twice. Dry inside, barely browned outside, and flavor that disappears halfway through the chew. If you've ever found yourself adding salt, ketchup, or secret sauce to salvage the batch, you already know what's missing: the crunch, the golden edge, and the taste that lingers. Behind the counter, the myth of craftsmanship runs into the wall of fast service. Potatoes come in bulk, peeled and chopped by machine presses that shoot them through metal grids. It looks hand-cut because an employee pulls a lever, but that's where the romance ends. The pace is relentless. Each fryer has to keep moving, batches cycle non-stop, and the oil barely recovers between drops. That's not small batch cooking. That's an assembly line dressed in authenticity. You can't dial in oil temperature or timing with precision when the next drive-through order interrupts every minute. The science makes it worse for these fresh-only fries. Real potatoes hold different water content depending on their age, temperature, and even the season. In a perfect kitchen, you'd adjust cooking times for that. In a busy fast food shift, you don't have the bandwidth. Some fry softer, some break apart, and none crisp evenly. Half the batch comes out oily. The other half looks underdone. Managing all that with split-second timing and one fryer timer is a recipe for mediocrity. That fresh potato pride also limits the prep options that would fix it. The best fries in the world, restaurant or diner, go through a two-step process. Blanched once, cooled, then fried again. Chains that parcook and freeze their fries like Shake Shack or Five Guys get a grilling for being less authentic. But the truth is that freezing stage locks in texture. It lets starch set and moisture escape. Technically controlled, boring maybe, but the result is consistent crispness. In-N-Out's version skips that step, keeping things raw and fast. And that's exactly why the fries feel unfinished. The hand-cut pitch isn't just culinary. It's emotional. It's nostalgia sold in potato form. Those words whisper that someone still cooks like it's 1955, when everything came straight from the field. It builds trust, makes you feel safe from additives and factories. But step back and look at the setup: metal blades, commercial fryers, industrial oil drums. It's the same machinery everyone else uses. Only the language differs, turning basic prep into a badge of purity. Hand-cut has become shorthand for not corporate, even when the process behind it is as standardized as a soda refill. Taste tests expose the illusion. Fresh sounds appetizing, but texture and seasoning decide everything. When you fry raw potatoes without pretreatment, the starch doesn't gel properly. The crust never forms, so the fries start soft and stay soft. Even a few extra seconds in the oil won't save them, then they just soak up grease. Salt can't fix what structure won't hold. And yet, when customers see a worker pushing potatoes through that press, they already decide it's better. That's suggestion doing the heavy lifting again. Workers know the reaction too. They've called the fries the store's biggest complaint, a polite way of saying people hate them but keep ordering anyway. When something that underwhelming becomes iconic, that's pure marketing muscle. The brand doesn't have to admit failure. It rebrands it as simple, classic, or honest. Suddenly, soggy fries look like integrity. What's really being sold isn't texture, it's trust. Hand-cut fries make you feel closer to the food. as if someone literally cared enough to carve it for you. That illusion of attention keeps the myth alive even when the taste doesn't. Those limp fries aren't proof of effort. They're proof of how well we've been trained to equate imperfection with authenticity. In fast food, that's the greatest sleight of hand. So those hand-cut spuds that look like craftsmanship? They're not a culinary upgrade. They're a marketing badge, the edible equivalent of a handwritten label on a factory jar. If limp and flavorless can pass as wholesome, then the halo of purity is pulling heavy duty. And if fresh can excuse bland, the next question is simple. What else are we buying besides food? What happens when a burger shifts from being food on a plate to a flag you wave? That's the real story behind the California burger myth. In-N-Out didn't just sell patties and fries. It sold a lifestyle that feels cleaner, sunnier, and more principled than fast food has any right to be. The palm trees, the spotless white tiles, the vintage script, they all work like soft propaganda, telling you you're eating something good, something moral. You're not just taking a bite, you're taking a stand. That's what gives the chain its quiet sense of virtuous rebellion. The old-school design says, "We stayed pure," as if avoiding menu sprawl and frozen beef made it holier than the rest. It's a marketing religion built on restraint. Meanwhile, you'll see the inverse on the East Coast. Places like Shake Shack staking their image not on purity but on sophistication. Stainless steel counters, minimalist fonts, craft buns, 100% all-natural claims. Where In-N-Out says simple, the East Coast crowd says elevated. Two stories, same goal. Charge you more for what your conscience or your ego wants to eat. But here's the real question, are you paying for better ingredients or just for belonging to the image? A West Coast drive-through meal feels wholesome partly because every detail signals virtue, from employee uniforms to paper boats. Yet when you compare what's on the tray, the actual ingredients aren't that different from plenty of mid-tier chains. The difference is story. Freshness is framed as morality. Tradition is mistaken for craftsmanship. Once a burger carries that moral shine, people stop asking whether it's actually a better meal. If you trace what you actually pay for in a burger, the costs divide neatly. Ingredient quality holds steady. Grass-fed beef, fresh lettuce, decent cheese. Wages in the region climb higher, sure, but after that, a large chunk of your dollar goes into preserving the lifestyle illusion. Branding isn't the posters on the wall. It's the patience to hold a narrow menu and call it discipline. Every decision, from the paper wrapper to the controlled tech-free marketing, costs real money to look that effortless. You're charged for the aura of authenticity because that aura requires design, not accident. Compare this to Shake Shack, which doesn't pretend to be simple. Its value pitch is rooted in polish. Airy dining rooms, beer taps, frozen custard, limited releases. Everything about it screams curated indulgence. You're invited to feel like an urban food explorer, not a minimalist purist. That self-image commands a higher tab, maybe double what a West Coast meal runs. But the trade feels fair to those buying into the gourmet fast casual promise. The East Coast sells expertise, the West Coast sells faith. Both profit from emotion first, taste second. Research comparing the two worlds shows how price and value drift apart once branding takes charge. On the West Coast, the chain prides itself on moral worth and reasonable price points, while its East Coast rival markets premium comfort at full upscale rates. The irony is that both sides are right on their own terms. In-N-Out uses cultural weight to make an ordinary product feel eternal. Shake Shack uses technical polish to make casual dining feel exclusive. Either way, you're paying a storytelling fee every time you unwrap that burger. Regional pride quietly does the rest. Defending your coast becomes the ultimate upsell. Californians call out New York's pretension. New Yorkers mock California's simplicity. Both sides forget they're buying from corporations with near-perfect control over public sentiment. Once you pick a side, you're not comparing beef anymore, you're comparing identities. That's the genius of the burger war. You protect your coast like you protect your team jersey, while prices climb one quiet cent at a time. Take away the rituals, the nostalgia, and the iconography, and what's left is a sandwich that's good but rarely great. The extra value lives in the story, not the flavor. That palm tree glow you're chasing costs more than the food it wraps around. and you pay gladly because it feels like yours. Strip away that cultural coding, and you start to see the trade for what it is, a purchase of meaning, not meat. Once you notice that every logoed napkin feels a little louder. And if you want the truth about burger value, it's simpler than either coast wants to admit. The truth is, the West versus East burger rivalry isn't really about beef, it's about belief. Freshness, purity, and tradition all double as advertising scripts that rewrite how you think food should taste. The myth works because it flatters you. You're not just a customer, you're a believer. That pride keeps you loyal even when flavor takes a backseat. Marketing has learned to season emotion better than salt. So next time you order, ask yourself if you're rewarding flavor or falling for storytelling. And if that gave you something to chew on, like and subscribe to help us keep the spotlight on the food industry's best-kept secrets.